We're in Psalm 13, and it's a wonderful, powerful psalm. We read the whole thing yesterday. It's a Psalm of David, and I want to take a look at verses 1 and 2 today. This psalm is broken into three pieces. So my idea is that today we'll take a look at verses 1 and 2, and tomorrow 3 and 4, and then Thursday 5 and 6, and maybe we'll start a new psalm on Friday, or maybe we'll just look at the whole thing and kind of get a comprehensive view. But David is writing, and he's overwhelmed in this moment, and he's going to be brutally honest with God. And I love that about the Psalms. They teach us that you can always be brutally honest with God. In fact, there's no sense not being, because he already knows every thought you've got, every emotion you're feeling. He already knows every question and doubt you wrestle with. So you're safe to talk to God about your doubts and your frustrations and your disappointments, even with him, okay? And that's what David's going to do right now. He almost accuses God. It feels to us almost disrespectful. It's not. It's honest. It's raw. And he is bringing his human experience, his legitimate, validated human experience, into the presence of God with somewhat rhetorical questions. But boy, are they hard-hitting questions. So let's look at verses 1 and 2. How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord? Forever? How long wilt thou hide thy face from me? So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see David right now, wherever he is in this moment, feels utterly forsaken by God, by the one who he should be able to rest and trust that he will never be forsaken by, okay? Now, let's just talk objectively for a second. Is David forsaken by God? No. Has God forgotten David? I mean, is that even possible? Of course not. Okay. So David is not speaking in the literal sense that he truly believes that God has forgotten him. If he were, or forsaken, if he were, he wouldn't be writing this psalm. He would be telling everybody else that God forsook him. Why waste time talking to a God that truly has forgotten you or forsaken you? Okay. No, David understands. He's differentiating between who he knows God to be and what his human experience and emotions and circumstances are telling him about God. The human experience is, God, I feel like you've forsaken me. If I were judging you by my experience and by my emotions, I would think that you have forsaken me. And it feels so dark and so lonely and so absolute, God, that it feels like you're going to forget me forever. Now, we know this isn't the case, okay? But the lesson here of David, number one, being able to air this to God. Wow, what a resource. What a wonderful, merciful, loving God that says, even when you don't understand me, even when you nearly want to falsely accuse me, bring it to me, okay? Bring it to me so we can work through this. Don't bury it. Don't try to work through it on your own. Don't just complain about God to other people. God says, no, bring it to me. Even when I feel absent in your life, still come to me, okay? The second big takeaway for me is the phrase, how long? David says this 3 times. Verse 1, twice, and actually he says it 4 times. Twice in verse 1, twice in verse 2. How long? How long? How long? Now, so it is right. It's permissible to cry out to God, how long is this season? And it is important. It's essential that we understand these experiences are temporary, okay? They feel long. They feel forever. They feel comprehensive and absolute, but they are seasons. And David intrinsically understands this by the question, how long? He knows he entered into this. He knows he'll come out of it. He knows it's going to be for a season. He's hoping it's shorter than longer, but he's crying out to God, how long? And friend, it's okay for you to cry out to God in a difficult season, but you need to understand it is a season. So many people, their faith self-destructs in a season that would have been temporary because it feels absolute and they give up. Notice that David is not giving up. He's working through. Okay? How does he work through? By looking up and crying out to God, by bearing his inward experience to God. and expressing, God, it feels like you've forgotten me, and it feels like you've forgotten me forever. It feels, secondly, like you're hiding your face from me. How long will you hide your face from me? What a descriptor. The sense in David's life was that in other moments of his life that God was facing him, and that the light and the favor of God's countenance was shining into his life and circumstances, that God was smiling on him. And now the experience is as though God has turned his back and moved away and moved David out of his conscious awareness and forgotten him. Turned away from him, hiding his face. God, you're hiding your face from me. The sense of God's favor, God's presence, God's smile, God's warmth, God's countenance in my life, it changes everything. And in this moment, David is missing that. How long do I need to go through this season where I feel like you're turned away from me? Okay. Do you ever feel that way? Oh, many times I have. Dozens and dozens of times in my life of following God, I feel like his back maybe has turned towards me. God, have you forgotten me? What's going on? Where am I? My friend, it's always an experience, an emotion. It's never substantive. His back is never towards you. You might feel like it is. But this is one of the big takeaways of Psalms like this. You don't define your God by your feelings, okay? You don't define your faith by your feelings. Your faith stands above your feelings. You subject your feelings and emotions and experiences to your faith, to what is true, and to who God says he is. You trust his word, not your senses, not your experiences, not your psyche, not your soul or your emotions. No, you subject those to his word. And that's essentially what David is doing. Look at the third how long. How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long, taking counsel in my soul, the idea of working through this, consternating through this. You know those seasons in life where you don't sleep well, where you're consumed by what you're going through. So much so that it's hard to think about anything else. It's hard to enjoy anything else. You can't watch a TV show or a movie. You can't engage in a very long conversation. You don't have a lot to give because your total psyche is consumed in processing this and the sorrow of it every day. Boy, that's a common recurrence in human experience, in life itself. How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? You ever feel like you're just losing? There's just others that are getting the advantage and taking advantage, and you're just the underdog. Injustice, again, is unfolding in your life, and you feel like God is not intervening. How long? How long? My friend, it's a safe thing to bring your doubts and your questions and your fears and your concerns to God. It is an important thing that you learn not to subject your faith to those experiences, but no, you put those experiences under the framework of who God really is. Be honest to him today. Be honest before him today. Go to him. He can hear you. He can receive you. And he can sustain you. Happy Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.